Have you ever wondered what really happens behind the scenes of open relationships? Not the glossy Instagram posts, not the glamorous stories from polyamory blogs, but the raw, unfiltered truth that few people dare to say out loud. Today, we're peeling back the layers and asking the hard questions. Do open relationships truly satisfy, or do they simply create a more sophisticated version of heartbreak? This is not a sugar-coated love story. This is a brutally honest look at polyamory in practice. Its boundaries, its emotions, its jealousy, and the fragile balance between freedom and commitment. Stay with me, because by the end of this episode, you might see love, loyalty, and intimacy in a completely different light. Open relationships are no longer a taboo whispered about in secret corners. More and more couples are experimenting with them, curious about whether one person can really fulfill every emotional, intellectual, and physical need for a lifetime. The traditional narrative of find your one and only and live happily ever after is being questioned. Instead, people are asking, what if love isn't meant to be a cage? What if intimacy can expand, not shrink when shared? But before you think this is a fairy tale of endless freedom, let me be clear. Open relationships are not an easy escape. They are complex, fragile, and demanding. The very same freedom that makes them appealing also makes them incredibly challenging. The first myth we need to address is the idea that open relationships are automatically more satisfying. Many people assume that having multiple partners means having more joy, more connection, more sex, and fewer problems. But reality paints a more complicated picture. Yes, open relationships can provide variety, excitement, and the thrill of exploring new dynamics. They can allow people to express parts of themselves that might not fit neatly into one partnership, but at the same time, they introduce layers of vulnerability, risk, and emotional labor that monogamy often shields you from. Every new connection adds new emotional entanglements. Every boundary that isn't crystal clear creates space for misunderstandings. And every new partner introduces the possibility of jealousy, comparison, and insecurity. Let's talk about jealousy, because it's one of the most underestimated forces in open relationships. People often say, I'm fine with my partner seeing someone else, I'm secure enough, I won't get jealous. But the truth is, jealousy doesn't always arrive as a loud, obvious storm. Sometimes it sneaks in quietly, disguised as a passing thought. Why didn't they text me back right away? Or, why are they laughing more with that person than with me? At first it seems small, almost manageable. But left unspoken, jealousy can grow like a shadow, darkening even the most open-minded arrangements. And here's the paradox. The more you try to suppress jealousy, the more powerful it becomes. The only way to survive it is through radical honesty, constant communication, and an almost uncomfortable level of self-reflection. And that is exhausting. Another brutal truth. Boundaries in open relationships sound great in theory, but they are incredibly hard to enforce in practice. Most couples set rules at the start. No sleepovers, no seeing the same person more than twice, always prioritize the primary partner, or never catch feelings for someone else. These rules are designed to create a sense of safety, but real emotions rarely respect tidy rules. What happens when casual intimacy turns into attachment? What happens when the partner who is supposed to stay secondary suddenly starts to feel like a soulmate? The line between lust and love isn't as clear as we wish it were. And when those boundaries are crossed, the hurt can cut even deeper than in traditional monogamy, because you thought you were prepared and yet you weren't. it's important to highlight that open relationships aren't just about sex, despite what many outsiders assume. For some, polyamory is about building deep, loving bonds with more than one person. It's about acknowledging that humans are complex beings with endless capacity for affection. But here's the catch. Endless capacity doesn't mean endless time or energy. Your emotional bandwidth is limited. Your ability to show up fully, to nurture, to support, to connect, these things stretch thinner with every additional partner. And sooner or later, someone feels neglected. Someone feels like they're not the priority. And resentment starts to grow, even if everyone agreed from the start that we're all equal. In reality, polyamory often creates hierarchies, whether openly acknowledged or silently felt. There's usually a main partner, and then others who orbit around that relationship. And for those in the orbit, that position can feel both rewarding and painfully limiting. Now, let's talk about the emotional rewards, because it would be unfair to paint only the struggles. When open relationships work, they can offer incredible growth. They force you to confront your own insecurities, to communicate with a clarity that most monogamous couples never reach, and to embrace the idea that love is abundant, not scarce. Many people in polyamorous relationships describe a sense of liberation, a deeper understanding of themselves, and even a reduction in pressure on one single partner to be everything. Instead of expecting one person to meet every need, you allow different people to fulfill different roles: intellectual stimulation from one partner, physical passion from another, deep companionship from another. That mosaic of connection can feel deeply satisfying if it's managed with care. But, and here's the difficult part, this satisfaction doesn't come without cost. The cost is time, emotional energy, and resilience. The cost is navigating endless conversations about boundaries, negotiating conflicting needs, and confronting emotions you may never have faced before. The cost is accepting that heartbreak may not just come from one person leaving you, but from a complex web of connections unraveling all at once. Are most people prepared for that? Honestly, no. Many enter open relationships out of curiosity, excitement, or even desperation to save a failing relationship. And those are the arrangements most likely to collapse under the weight of unrealistic expectations. So, are open relationships truly satisfying? The answer is, it depends on what you're seeking and how prepared you are for the emotional battlefield ahead. If you crave novelty, if you value personal freedom above stability, and if you have the capacity for deep, uncomfortable self-work, then yes, open relationships can be fulfilling. But if what you're truly looking for is security, predictability, and the comfort of exclusivity, then polyamory may feel more like a constant test than a source of joy. And here's something people rarely admit. Even those who thrive in polyamory still experience loneliness, jealousy, and disappointment. Just like in monogamy, there is no perfect arrangement. There is only trade-off. One of the hardest lessons from open relationships is realizing that love doesn't protect you from pain. We grow up believing that if love is strong enough, it will shield us from heartbreak. But in polyamory, you learn that love can multiply without reducing, and yet, heartbreak multiplies too. You might love two people deeply and still feel torn apart by jealousy. You might be loved by many and still feel alone. You might agree to openness, only to discover that your boundaries aren't as flexible as you thought. These contradictions are not signs of failure. They are part of the human condition. But they are also the reason why so many open relationships end in confusion and regret. Still, it would be too easy to dismiss open relationships as doomed. The reality is, some people thrive in them. They build communities of trust, navigate jealousy with maturity, and find joy in the abundance of love. The brutal truth is not that open relationships are impossible, it's that they are not for everyone. And the real danger is pretending they are easy, pretending jealousy won't hurt, pretending boundaries won't be tested. The danger is in chasing freedom without understanding the responsibility it demands. If you're considering an open relationship, here's the honest advice. Don't rush. Don't use it as a quick fix for boredom or disconnection. Instead, ask yourself hard questions. Why do I want this? What am I afraid of losing? What do I need to feel secure? And most importantly, am I ready to face my own jealousy, my own fears, my own limits? Because if you're not, polyamory won't save you. It will expose you. And sometimes exposure is exactly what we need in order to grow. But it's rarely comfortable. So, the next time you see a couple boasting about their perfect open relationship, remember, behind every smiling photo, there are private negotiations, painful conversations, and countless moments of doubt. Polyamory isn't a fantasy. It's a choice that requires constant effort, constant honesty, and a willingness to face truths that monogamy often lets us ignore. The satisfaction is real, but so are the scars. And that's the brutal, unromantic, yet strangely beautiful truth about open relationships. They don't promise safety, but they do offer possibility. They don't guarantee happiness, but they do challenge you to redefine what happiness even means. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most valuable thing they can give us. Not a guarantee, but a mirror. A mirror that forces us to look at ourselves, our desires, and our fears with no place to hide. So ask yourself, do you want the comfort of certainty or the adventure of risk? Do you want the stability of one heart or the chaos of many? There is no right answer, only the answer that matches your truth. And if you choose the path of openness, walk it with eyes wide open, because the journey is as dangerous as it is thrilling.